Warren here on the Pro America Report. I don't know, he can correct me when I say it wrong. A couple months ago, 3 months ago, we had as a guest on the program Matt Lamb. He's an associate editor over at The College Fix. thecollegefix.com, thecollegefix.com. The tagline beneath it, Matt, I like the best on the website. It's The College Fix, breaking campus news, launching media careers. So we're here to help. So Matt Lamb, associate editor. So I love this because to me this is halfway between the Babylon Bee, which means you laugh out loud when you see the headline, but also taking the insanity of the left to the logical extreme. I'm reminded of this guy the last few days who, said, well, if we're supposed to be so into diversity, I'm going to identify as, I think he said, an African-American woman. And everybody said, you can't do that. He said, that's what you guys said the rules are. So here we are. Joe Biden has said, hey, they want all books available to students. And so you had an idea for the DC library. Walk us through this, Matt, please.
So this actually goes back to September 2022 when First Lady Dr. Jill Biden said that all books belong in libraries. This was around the time that there was the debate over Florida's law limiting sexual instruction to kids up to third grade. There was other states and localities that were trying to place reasonable limits on what books kids were accessing in public libraries and school libraries, public school libraries, right?
Right.
So I had the idea to ask the DC Public Library if they could buy a book by Tara Reade, who was former Senate aide to Joe Biden, and accused her allegedly, of course, these are still allegations, that he sexually assaulted her, sexually harassed her, acted inappropriately. I think there's plenty of public evidence he has done sexual harassment or acted inappropriately to other people. And so actually, the DC Library got back to me recently, which was around the time that Joe Biden said that all books, pretty much the same thing his wife said, should be available to students. He gave these comments at like a teachers, educators conference. And so now anyone can go read this book by Tara Reade once the book comes into the DC Library.
Matt Lamb is our guest. Matt, let me go a different way with this for 1 second. The insanity. First of all, it's interesting to me that I'll start. Let me start with, I should respond to what you said. It's interesting that they actually did it, right? I mean, I'm not impressed because that's what they're supposed to do, but it's, if you'd gotten a runaround, that would have been really obvious, right? So maybe they don't mind to have to, bother giving you the runaround, right?
Absolutely. Someone in the comments on our page suggested, well, maybe they'll buy it and then they'll just put it up for sale for like a quarter, 2 months later at the the Friends of the Library sale. I'm actually going to be in DC at the end of June, so I'm planning to try to find this book. And so maybe there'll be a further update from there. But I'm glad we were able to get this book purchased to make the broader, of course, I'm making sort of a funny point that really all books don't need to be available. We can actually draw limits as a community on what at least kids should be able to access in a public library with taxpayer funds.
Well, and that's the number one thing. And again, we're talking with Matt Lamb, thecollegefix.com, and one of the aspects of the College Fix is covering lots of things that happen on college campuses. More importantly, these are young journalists and they're active. And so, as you point out, it's one thing to say adults can do stupid stuff, read stupid things, read bad literature. It's another thing to make it accessible to kids. And the only thing that I regret about this is that had you had Matt had a back and forth, you would have been able to say, okay, where do you guys want to draw the line, right? I mean, are you going to excoriate people for reading Mein Kampf? Which, I think it's on the reading list at lots of universities. But if you happen to have read it, or if you have a copy, Matt, they're going to make you sound like, you're a fan, you started a fan club. But what's the limits, right? And what's the limits? And there's this sensibility on the left, I think, that they want no limits on everything. And you go, let's go right to pornography. Do you want limits on pornography for kids? Well, it's obviously, but do you want limits on pornography being made with kids, which is, I'm not talking about 5-year-olds. I'm talking about 16, 17-year-old girls who are exploited. Well, these no limits is something. But Matt, this is all really motivated by, it's a DeSantis argument, right? They're trying to aim this at conservative governors and conservative school boards, right?
Exactly. And I will point out that actually the federal government does put limits on what can be published. For one, Elizabeth Warren actually tried to get Amazon to pull several books. I think they were critical of COVID shots or something like that.
Oh, right.
And also, speaking of DeSantis, he showed some of the books that they were limiting access to, and the local TV stations, I believe because they were fearing a Federal Communications Commission fine, cut the feed. And I'll note that the Department of Defense, if you were, let's say, like a CIA agent or you were a military officer at high ranking, you go to write a book, the Department of Defense or some other related agency or entity of it generally has to actually review your books to make sure you're not spilling state secrets or putting people's lives at risk. So I think we can have limits for 7-year-olds seeing books like genderqueer. If we can put limits on adults, writing things that might harm national security or exposing people to these things on television.
Yeah, I mean the only problem, Matt, and again, we're talking with Matt Lamb, associate editor at the College Fix, is who gets to decide, right? I mean, that's the bigger who's the one that gets to say what's in or out, and there I fear conservatives. That's a siren song, as they say, to say, well, therefore let everything reign free because we can all distinguish it. Well, not exactly, right? But because I think it's a trick, right? But that is the problem. What is government going to be the one that tells you that that you shouldn't be allowed to read X or Y because it's national security, as opposed to something that informs the public in a way that is unflattering of the government. I mean, this is one of the problems. I hope you'll agree, but I don't know, you can tell me, with our distrust of government. I mean, we've gone so far where, as you just pointed, as a perfect one, on COVID, there was a period where they were threatening they were taking down personalities, they were taking down web pages over, disagreements over COVID, not even vaccine, but treatments. And now we find most of what they were saying, they were either guessing or they were lying.
Right. And so this is why when we talk about books in libraries, it's good to push it down to the local community and let those people make decisions. And I'll just say, from a conservative point of view, the pornography is already in the library. So I don't really see how it could get much worse if we have a review process. The librarians are mostly liberal anyways, so I would guess there's already not a ton of Donald Trump books or free market capitalism books. My inclination is, for example, my own library, if I went and looked for Catholic books, they would be from more dissident Catholics, pro-LGBT Catholics. You're not exactly going to find more conservative content. So conservatives are already kind of losing the libraries. I really don't think we have much to lose. If at a local level with a local school board or a local library, there's a way we can talk about it, because really all books can't fit on the shelves. Every library has to make a decision about what's going to be on the shelves and what's not. And I think conservatives just want more of a say on what's on those shelves.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I was going to tell you off the air as we started. We're talking Matt Lamb, thecollegefix.com. I live in a county that has a very good and vibrant public library, and I have to say it's fantastic for my family, because I can see a book and I can say, I'll go look and see if that's in the library, and if I want to get it, if they have it, I put a request in. They deliver it to the local the library that's in my town branch, and they send me an email saying pick it up. The more interesting question is going to be, are we going to have public libraries, more and more we are, that have books and content that you can access, therefore without having to pay, right? So you can watch a movie or listen to a book or read a book on Kindle or whatever, and the cost of that goes down. Again, to your point, having local control over what's in there is the key, because you may not want to have your public library have all this content that's going to be created, but you may not have the time to view it. I mean, we're at the front end of a content, if we're not already in the middle of a tsunami, and managing that, I think, as you point out, is best local.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. Do libraries have to have a Disney Plus, public subscription or Netflix? Absolutely not. And my library is also, generally great. I can get lots of content. They have lots of things online. I can access New York Times, Wall Street Journal, things that are great for me as a journalist.
Right.
And so, exactly, they're going to have to make decisions about what streaming services, what video games, what movies. That's a whole nother debate. Should libraries stick to books or not? But those decisions are already made. I mean, every government agency has to ultimately make a decision about where to spend taxpayer money, and I think taxpayers should have a say on where that goes.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's a good coverage, and I appreciate the College Fix and for lots of reasons, but especially this one. Matt Lamb, thank you, associate editor over at the College Fix. TheCollegeFix.com is their website. There's a lot there to check out, and I will post this up on social media. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we will take a break and come back, and I'll put that up on social media and also link to Matt Lamb. We'll be right back. Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Back in a moment.